So today, we're talking about a deeply respected South African tradition, a rite of passage for young men. But, beneath the surface of this really important cultural practice lies a deadly crisis, one that's claiming lives and just devastating families. A promising life cut short. This phrase, it just hangs over this entire story. It's a story about potential, about identity, and about the tragic, tragic consequences when tradition gets twisted by pure lawlessness. I want you to imagine this for a second. You've just finished your last high school exams. Your entire future is right there in front of you. But for a young man named Onalena Bowie, that moment of achievement, it was followed by a disappearance that would end in the worst way possible. And his story, well, it's really the tip of the iceberg of a much larger national crisis. To really get what happened, we first have to understand the tradition itself. You see, initiation schools are a deeply rooted cultural practice in so many South African communities. They're meant to mark this sacred transition from boyhood to manhood. It's all about meaning, identity, and a sense of belonging. But, and this is the absolute key to understanding this, there are two totally different kinds of schools. On one side, you've got the legal registered schools. They operate with government regulation, with oversight. But on the other side, you have these illegal schools that are operating in the shadows. They have no standards, zero accountability, and as we're seeing, deadly consequences. And let's be super clear about this because this gets to the very heart of the issue. The danger isn't in the culture itself. It's in the criminal negligence and the exploitation of that culture by these illegal operators. So how exactly does this rite of passage turn deadly? I mean, what is happening inside these illegal schools that leads to such awful outcomes? Let's break it down. Look, these are not some unavoidable accidents. Investigations show the same deadly patterns over and over again. Initiates are deprived of water, they're exposed to extreme weather, they're circumcised with unsterilized instruments, they face physical abuse, and when things inevitably go wrong, there is no medical care. And what's worse, many, like Annalena, are even taken there by force. Just let that sink in for a moment. Not some of them. Not most of them. Every single one of these deaths is preventable. This isn't fate. This is a complete failure of basic human care. So now, let's go back to that young man we started with. Because this abstract list of dangers, it had a very real, very human cost for Onalena Bowie and his family.
Onalena Boy was a grade 12 student at Diego Tawana Secondary School. His principal said he was hardworking, determined, just on a path to real academic success. Right after his final exams, he was allegedly taken, forcibly, to one of these illegal schools. His family had no idea where he was.
And this quote from his principal, man, it's just heartbreaking. We were expecting a bachelor pass. The whole community was waiting to celebrate his academic future. But instead, just days after he was reported missing, his body was discovered. A future full of promise, just erased. Onalena's story is a profound tragedy, but you have to understand, it is not an isolated one. Not even close. It's part of a horrifying pattern that reveals a systemic failure on a massive national scale. Just look at these numbers. This isn't a new problem. This timeline shows a relentless cycle of death, year after year. Between 2021 and 2024, at least 46 initiates died across the country. And, horrifyingly, in just the first few weeks of the most recent initiation season, 5 deaths were already reported. In just one province, the Eastern Cape, the scale is absolutely staggering. Between 2006 and 2022, over 900 initiation-related deaths were recorded there. Over 900. Just let that number sink in. And the data, again and again, it consistently points to one source. The overwhelming majority of these tragedies are happening at these illegal, unregulated, and incredibly dangerous initiation schools. Okay, this is a massive crisis, but it is not a hopeless one. There are ways to protect these young men, to preserve the culture without sacrificing lives. So what needs to happen? What's the path forward? An official oversight system does actually exist. There's a process for schools to be registered, for facilities to be inspected, for illegal operations to be shut down, and arrests have been made. But the system is clearly failing. Enforcement is spotty at best, and way too often any intervention comes far too late. Ultimately, this is the core principle, right? The goal of any cultural practice has to be to uplift its participants, not endanger them. Prevention has to be the absolute #1 priority. And that prevention, well, it's a shared responsibility. It's on everyone. Families have to ask the hard questions about where their sons are going. Communities, who often know exactly which schools are illegal, they have to report them. And the government? It has to enforce the laws that are already on the books swiftly and without any exception. So we'll leave you with this question. It's a difficult one for sure, but it gets right to the heart of the matter. True respect for tradition has to mean, first and foremost, protecting the lives of the people who carry it forward. The real challenge isn't choosing between culture and safety, but finding the will to make sure they always, always go hand in hand.